Hey, welcome to the Strong Roots podcast. My name is Kristen Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Hey, Strong Roots podcast. We are in our Steadfast season, and I'm here with Brent. And I was just telling him off of the air that he is one of the most steadfast people I know. I really respect the way that he's steadfast in his faith and steadfast in the way that he has been such a pillar in this church. And thank you for being here and letting me interview you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kristen. I'm really excited to be a part of this. Actually, my wife really likes watching the Live Roost podcast, so She was pretty excited about it too.
Oh, that's awesome. So talking about steadfast, what about Jesus' character makes you want to be loyal to him every day?
So when I think of Jesus and just being loyal to him, it's really just his love and commitment for us that really makes me want to be loyal to him. I mean, there's no better example of love because God is love.
Right.
And when you truly think about God, Jesus left heaven to come down to earth, not for everyone, but for me.
Right.
Me individually, but us as a collective, but me individually. And when I think of all the things that I've done, and I think of all the reasons why I don't deserve it, it's just really powerful to think that he still loved us that much, still knowing the future.
Right.
And would do that. And so to me, how can I say the creator of the universe can do that for me, but I can't return that faithfulness to him?
Wow. Is it easy for you to be faithful and steadfast, or is this something that you've really had to work for?
I'm actually a really selfish person, and so it can be really hard for me to be steadfast in something that I don't necessarily want. It's really easy for me to be steadfast in things that I'm really passionate about in the moment,
right?
Because I'm a fairly driven person. But besides that, I mean, if it's something like getting up and serving, or just reading my Bible every day, like sometimes I'm tired. I have a lot of other things to do. It can be really hard for me personally. I know some people it comes much more naturally, but for me it can be hard.
How have you pushed through it? How have, when there's been, I don't know if there's been long seasons where you haven't read your Bible and done that, or how do you every day make a choice to do the hard things?
So for me, I did have longer seasons, especially more in high school. Once I got into college, I was much more regimented, and I became much more aware of it when I wasn't around my family, especially as much, that I need to really be pursuing Jesus and my own relationship with God. One moment in particular that struck me really hard was when I moved to St. Louis. So it was part of an internship. Okay. I lived in St. Louis for 13 months. Obviously the most populous place I've ever lived in. DeMont's a pretty small town. St. Louis has millions of people, but I never felt more alone in my life than when I lived in St. Louis, because I was away from everyone I knew. I didn't know a single person there when I moved there. So I felt alone, and it really reminded me, my relationship with Jesus really stinks right now, because if I feel alone, then I'm obviously don't have a good relationship. So it was kind of in that I really refocused in on, I need to not just go to church, not just, do these things, but I need to actually have a relationship, spend time in the Word, spend time praying, talking with God. Even if God's not answering me, I just need to talk to God, and he will, reveal himself in the ways that he wants to.
I feel like you talked about moving away, and now you're back, and this is the church you were raised in.
Right.
How have you been so unwavering, and even just your commitment to this body of believers? Where does that come from? Or I am genuinely curious.
So part of that is just the character, how God made me. I'm really committed to organizations that I'm a part of. Yeah. But also, there's just something about being in a community of believers for a lifetime. And obviously, I went to college and I came back. But one of the big reasons, I remember talking with my parents about this, one of the big reasons I decided to come back, I was deciding whether to work in St. Louis, work in Chicago, somewhere else. I could have worked in a lot of places, had many companies that were interested. But I missed First.church and just the community that was here. And being a part of First.church is really unique and different than any secular organization.
Yes.
For sure. And even I've gone to a bunch of different churches, having lived in 3 or 4 different places now. And just being able to connect and being able to have a central vision and focus on God and on his kingdom and eternity and building what really matters is something that I talk about a lot with Angie, but really staying focused on what matters. And, when you think of speech or anything like that, and any kind of talk, the most important things are always said at the beginning and at the end of a speech. And then the last thing that Jesus said to us as he was leaving was the Great Commission.
Yeah.
Go forth and make disciples of every nation. So that's something that has really been embodied throughout my time here at First Church, especially the formative years from high school forward.
Yeah.
And it's just so captivating to be a part of such a great vision that really aligns with what Jesus wants us to do.
Absolutely. I feel like in order to have a steadfast spirit, you've had to have gone through trials. You've had to have been tested. So what have those looked like in your life?
So I have been tested. So if you were to look at my life from the outside, and if you were to ask the average person, I am like the good Christian guy.
Yeah.
Because I have been relatively steadfast, and but that doesn't mean it's been without struggles. So when I was in St. Louis, I dealt with, like I said, I was lonely. I dealt with what I would consider some form of depression. I wasn't diagnosed or anything like that, but I was really down, and I had some really terrible thoughts during that time. And again, that's when I talked about that. That was kind of what okay, my relationship stinks because I shouldn't be thinking this. I know there's a God who loves me,
right,
but I'm having these feelings. That's one instance, very real and very unexpected. You never hear that from people generally that come from a really good family, which I did. I had a great family. My family loves me. But I still had those feelings. And then also I had, very similar struggles to a lot of guys. I had an addiction to pornography that lasted a really long time. And it persisted. And it was something that, because of my pride and because of being the good Christian guy, I didn't even feel safe talking to people about it because I didn't want to, I was so prideful and so much that I didn't want to hurt some image that I didn't seek help from anyone else. And so it was just something that continued to drag me away from God because it's so painful. It's such a sin against your own body.
Right.
So that was a huge struggle that I had, but finally, being faithful, being steadfast, I was able to get in contact with people through First.church.
Yeah.
And then they were able to help me through it. And that's that was kind of the last really big freeing moment for me. But that was a really big part of my development. And that was a huge struggle for me as when you're continually sinning on something like that, it makes it really hard to be steadfast.
Oh, yeah. I love how you said, dragging you, feel like it was putting a wedge between you and God and dragging you away.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I kind of have 2 questions in one.
Yeah.
How hard was it for you to confess to that first person, and who was it that you confessed to, if I can ask?
So the first person I confessed to at First.church was Zachary.
Yeah.
Freely. I also, previously to that, had talked with people at college, but the one person that I really needed to confess to and that really changed everything was actually confessing it to my dad.
Yeah.
And not just confessing, I was broken, he's the person I've always looked up to, and he's been that steadfast rock in our family. And just telling him, basically, I feel like I failed you.
Yeah.
And, I'm hurting you in all these ways, but he was just so loving through all of that and really helped me see that, no, obviously it's not something that he's going to condone or even likes to hear, but he wanted to see me whole more than he wanted to send any kind of message or anything like that.
That's amazing. So in regards to that, what has helped you? So confession I hear is huge in helping you be steadfast in any sinful area. But what else has helped you remain steadfast in a part where you're really tempted?
So after, once kind of cleared that hurdle, something that really has helped me stay steadfast is just remembering the sinful past I had and the pain that came from that. And then the freedom that comes from Christ.
Yeah.
It still is, I still remember, it's an unbelievably freeing feeling being able to give that over to God fully. I mean, there's a difference between, praying like, oh God, I messed up again, please, forgive my sins, blah, 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 blah. I prayed, and then, do it again like 2 days later. That's not,
I think we've all been.
That's not repenting.
Been there.
So
yeah, it's not good.
So it's not repenting, it's not freeing, you're just keep failing. It's that wedge that you talked about, really that wedge. But once that wedge was pulled out, there was pain, pulling a splinter out, there's pain. But through that, there was so much freedom and so much joy that I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to give up that freedom and joy for any kind of momentary pleasure, gain, whatever. I don't want it. I mean, it's just what God offers is so much better than what the world offers.
So true. When did you discover that?
So I truly discovered that. So that was a couple years ago. It would have been actually at movement camp. Was kind of about the time that it happened. The first time I went on movement camp with the youth. It was the trip that we take with the youth. And that was just, I knew it. It was head knowledge. I more than knew it. I was told it. I believed it. I just didn't experience it fully until I was able to truly free myself. Not free myself, God freed me of it, but accept that freedom.
Right. I want to hear more. Like, I want to hear, how did you accept that freedom?
So basically it was just, I needed people to hold me accountable, and I needed that team around me. Because it's an addictive type thing. And so I needed the people around me to hold me to that. But once I was able to do that, then having that feeling of freedom, it was just, you're stepping into it. You don't want anything else anymore.
Oh, it's so true.
And again, it's just, Jesus is giving you this gift. Again, it wasn't something that I earned or deserved at all. But just this gift of freedom and this gift of joy and peace and just healing me. I would look at myself and I'd feel disgusted because I knew the sin that was in my life, and other people didn't see it because it's a very private sin. It's not like I was going out and getting drunk. That's very outward and obvious. But I felt just as dirty and broken, if not more, than any person. And when I got to have that taken away from me, it was like the cleansing feeling, like making me white as snow. That phrase, it's in a lot of hymns. But truly, like, I could see myself as a child of God again. I couldn't accept that before because I didn't feel like it. I didn't look like it. And so just that feeling of really being clean and pure and a child of God.
That's so cool. So if someone, a man or a woman, is listening to this and they want that, but let's say they're how you were when you're talking about St. Louis, like they're not in a good place. They feel all alone. They're in the dark. What is a tangible step that they could choose to be steadfast today in your mind?
To me, a really tangible step is you need someone in your corner.
That's good.
You need a mentor. There's someone in everyone's life that is a strong Christian. There's enough Christians in the world, no matter where you're listening to this, that a Christian. And you know who they are because they're different.
True.
And you want that different. You see that different and you want that different. So you really just need to find that person and talk with them because every Christian was in the same place. We've all had our hurts, pains, whatever that past looks like, whether you know it or you don't. It exists. And we just want every person to have that same joy and peace, because it's not exclusive. Everyone can have it.
Absolutely.
So it's not like climbing up a corporate ladder where you're taking someone else's place. It's literally everyone can have it.
I'm leaving it at that. That was so good. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Absolutely.
I really appreciate this, and I have learned so much from this. And if you guys take anything away from this, I love what you just said. Like, find somebody who can be in your corner. Find a Christian that you see is different. And that they are living it out. They have the Holy Spirit, and talk with them. Let them pour into you and lead you. But thank you again for teaching us how to be steadfast. And guys, I cannot wait to catch you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.